Hey, so I'm not a photographer. I don't know my ISOs from my f-stops from a hole in the ground. But these are my opinions, and this is what I think of the Sony A5100. So Campy here. I do product reviews of electronic items and household items from the perspective of a novice user. First of all, thank you for watching. And if you do me a favor, please hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the like button and go ahead and hit that bell so that you can get future notifications from me. Hey, so were you possibly thinking that you wanted to get away from using your cell phone for the purposes of doing vlogging and videos like this on YouTube, but you wanted to upgrade to a camera and you weren't sure where you wanted to start? So let me give you my perspective of a very capable camera that I ended up using for vlogging initially. So what I have here is the A5100, Sony A5100. It is a mirrorless camera, and it was introduced in August of 2014. So it has great autofocus and image quality in a very small camera that you would find mostly in DSLRs. This camera comes with a 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens. It has a 24.3 megapixel CMOS sensor. It has 1080p recording in 24 and as well as 60 frames per second. It has ultra-fast autofocus, built-in Wi-Fi and NFC, a 3-inch flip screen, and it does action shots up to 6 frames per second. In addition, it has an app that you can pair with the camera itself to pull all your photos off. Now in 2014, those features were great. This camera, just sitting under $600 at the time, that was a great deal. When I first purchased the camera, my intention was only to use it for photography and for some short videos with the family out on vacations and trips and family get-togethers. I took this camera everywhere, used it quite often, and used it mainly for those purposes. I didn't start using this camera until maybe about just over a year ago for vlogging. And at that point in time, I started to use it a lot more often, and I found a few other things that I'd probably like to talk about with this camera. So let's talk about the pros. And the first thing I want to tell you is I, again, am basically a novice when it comes to cameras. I am not super experienced. So most of the time when I use this, and especially when I first purchased it, I used it in the auto mode, basically autofocus, used it in the intelligent auto, whatever you want to call it, feature in the camera. Did not use the manual hardly at all, and rarely did I find a time that I really needed to adjust any settings. So just keep that in mind as I go through this. One point when I first used the camera, the battery life was outstanding to me. When I go on vacation with the family, it was probably, I would take maybe 150 to 200 shots per day, coming home with maybe 1,000 to 2,000 pictures, depending on how long the vacation was. And during that period of time, I never had an issue where the battery ran out on me. I did have a few occasions where it came close, but it never did die on me. Additionally, I had a second battery that I purchased at the time, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't run into that situation, but I never did. And the nice thing about it was when I came back to the hotel, wherever it was for the day, I just swap out the fresh battery for the depleted battery, plug it in, charge it up, and I was good for the next day. The price, $549 when I first purchased it up to about 4 years ago. But this year, as of November 2019, you can find this camera for $399. That's still a pretty good price to get started. Now, I will tell you, when I first saw this camera and I was looking for something to use other than phones, and again, it was 4 years ago, I wanted to get good megapixel quality in my pictures. I wanted to take some really nice pictures to bring home. But the biggest thing that sold it for me was this flip screen right here. This was a godsend. Because at the time, when I go on vacation, it generally was just me and my wife. A lot of times we would spend trying to go to an area or take a picture, and it was just me and her, or her and I, let me say that correctly. And I didn't have anybody around, or didn't have a tripod at the time, or a little bit leery about the location. Maybe there were a lot of people around and I just didn't want to hand it off to someone. So what was really great about it is you could flip the screen, hold that camera out, and take a photo. Just as a really cool point is that it was, that you could use it in a selfie type atmosphere. The facial recognition on this camera is outstanding. Never did I run into a time where it didn't grab The suspect, the person, the family member, myself, never did it not capture, and did it ever run into an issue where it wasn't in focus. Was just really awesome with this. So the camera is just slightly larger than a point and shoot, other than the lens kit itself, but it's it's nothing overly dramatic. Yes, you can put this in your pocket. You can't with this, but then again, you might have a better chance of getting this in your pocket than a DSLR, right? So like I said, the small form factor of this, what was so great about this is that it's lightweight. It still feels really solid, but it's lightweight. It's easy to carry. If you start to use it in that vlog mode and you want to get a small jobby or something to the effect, let me see if I got something here. You want to attach a little guy to this and use it to hold and do some self vlogging and whatnot. It's not going to break your arm in the weight like some larger cameras might. Now let's talk about the cons. I would say the second biggest issue is that there's no through the lens viewfinder. And in fact, there's no viewfinder at all except for the screen. That makes it a bit problematic when you're out in the sunlight and bright sunshine and you get a glare on the screen. You can't really see if you got somebody in your shot or not if you don't have the perfect shot. The most important thing that I noticed more recently, as I said, maybe in the last year, was when I started to use this to record more and more video for YouTube and whatnot, that this camera overheats at about 18 minutes for me. I've seen reviews and discussions where people have had issues with this at anywhere from 10 to maybe almost 20 minutes. The problem with this camera is that it's such a small form factor that everything's compact within the camera, and the problem is that when it's recording in of course the 1080p, it's trying to record and transfer all that data to your SD card. That generates a lot of heat, and unfortunately at about 18 minutes or so for me, the camera overheats and shuts down. Now, I will tell you that when I researched it, because I was very concerned about this camera, I found that this was actually a common factor with this camera itself. And in fact, some other A-series with Sony, with the smaller mirrorless design, they tended to overheat and shut down. So, I thought it was defective, but come to find out, this is actually well documented and understood with this camera. I will also say that in researching this a little bit more recently to do this video, I found a lot of reviews where people were saying that they ran into issues where the camera would overheat and they would lose all their data. That wasn't the fact with me. Every time my camera overheated, and I would say it at least did it to me about 10 or so times before I got a little more efficient in video, the camera would show a display would show an overheating warning on the screen itself, and then it would shut down. And in that time, when it did do that, it ended up saving all my data anyway. So I had all my videos, and in fact, there's a couple of cases where I have some video, even on YouTube, where you'll see that I say, oh, my camera just shut off. It even recorded me saying that. So it looks like it gave a warning, ran for maybe about 10 or 12 seconds processing the last bit of the video, and then it would shut off. Another drawback is that the max recording time is about 29 minutes on this camera. That's not really a large drawback because the fact that most cameras, even the camera I'm using here, I believe the max is 29 minutes as well. Generally speaking, I've not seen a whole lot of cameras that don't allow you, to record beyond 29 minutes. I know that there are some, but you have to keep in your mind and understanding is if you're going to purchase a camera and your intent is to go out and record little Billy out there in a soccer game, or maybe you want to catch him in the play and you've got to do some recording that's going to last 30, 40, 50 minutes or longer, and you're going to continually record, you might want to consider a video camera, but don't get a camera that does video, if that makes sense. Another drawback that I've recently learned in my videos that I want to improve audio, that there is no audio jack on this thing. There is nothing that you can plug into to get audio. So there is a nice feature in here, and I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but let's see if it gets beyond me here. Don't look at me. Anyway, there are some holes up here, which is that it records in stereo. It's got left and right. Nice feature about it, but the problem is if you take this outside with any wind at all, you're going to hear it over your audio, and it's going to sound pretty bad. There are workarounds where you can place some cotton or, they call them dead cats or whatever material over this to help diffuse the sound, but that requires some work on the camera. Another drawback is there is no hot shoe on here or cold shoe. There is nothing for you to connect a microphone to. Not that that matters, because you can't plug a microphone into it anyway, but maybe you wanted to use a larger flash, or you wanted to use some lighting so that you wanted to brighten your face up while you're doing the videos. You don't have that option. There again is also a workaround. You could purchase one of those small cages that go around it and you can make it happen, but again, it's another purchase that you'll have to make with this. No 4K. There's no 4K capable on this. It's not a factor to me right now, as I'm still doing relatively few videos, and this is not my full-time gig. So 1080p works for me. In fact, I'm recording in 1080p on this. And also keep in mind, this camera is 4 years old, and at the time, even for budget cameras, it was rare that you could find 4K on them. And if you did, they weren't of the greatest quality. So who's this camera for? It's for guys and girls and ladies and gents and whatnot that want to get initially into photography, but they don't want to invest thousands of dollars and want to see if that they enjoy photography itself. They're fresh to it. They want to use something where they have a little more control over the manual settings, and they want to learn how to use that. I have no experience with that, but that's why I understand it. There is a lot of functionality here that you can bypass that can help teach you a little bit more about photography if that's the direction you want to go. I say the camera's good for vlogging. You got to keep in mind that it does overheat, but if you're good at doing 5 to 10 minute clips and you can let the camera cool down in between, this camera works great. It does a good job of recording, and it does good quality 1080p. Most of all, I want to say that this is really good for those travelers that want to take a lot of photos when they're on their trips. If they go anywhere with family get-togethers and whatnot, and they want to take some photos. The nice thing about this guy is it is small. It will fit in a bag easily in one of the side pockets. You don't have to get that big DSLR bulky thing and try to shove it into the main portion of your bag, taking up all your space. You can throw this guy in a little side pocket and off you go. You're good to go. And you have a really good camera. So finally, what do I think about the camera? I've had it for 4 years and I still use it up to this day. It takes wonderful pictures. I love this camera. It's really good. I love what it does and I love its capabilities. I don't think there's really anything to knock it. I would say that the overheating aspect is a bit concerning, but you got to understand that you got to move to something else if you're going to do more and more videos for vlogging and whatnot. For the purpose that I purchased this for, taking some short videos and doing some photography and family get-togethers and whatnot, and not trying to do any crazy type of high-end photography, this camera is wonders, and I'll still use it. And in fact, if you kind of take a look at it and some of the pictures I have, all the pictures that you're seeing in this video are of the camera that I took those pictures maybe about 2 or 3 days ago, max. The camera is in wonderful condition. I've taken care of it, and it still functions flawlessly. Adding to that as well is that flip screen. I can't live without it, especially with me and my wife when we're on vacation. It is awesome. It's great to be able to just flip this guy up. What's great about it too is, if you notice here, is that it's just above the lens. So it works out really good when you're doing some vlogging, or you're doing some, not even vlogging, maybe you're just doing a family video and you're doing some talking to send to your friends or family. It's so close to the lens, if you hold it far enough away, it looks like you're looking into the lens. You're not distracted by looking off and looking weird to your friends and family when you're talking to the screen that's so far away. I've said before, it does overheat. Again, if you're using this for vlogging, which most of the people that are probably coming to YouTube to see this may understand, you can work around it, but it does overheat. The touchscreen, while I love its capability for the selfie mode and the function, and it is a touchscreen, it's very limited. The screen itself, basically, you can click one or two of the buttons that are on the screen. For the most part, you touch it for autofocus areas that you want to focus on, but other than that, you cannot control, manipulate, change any settings via the touchscreen. If you like this review of this camera, give me some ideas of what you think about what this video has done to help you either consider using this camera or maybe even not consider using this camera. Yeah, let me know. And then also while you're down there, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and if you click on that bell, you'll get notifications of future videos that I'll be doing. So there's my review of the Sony A5100, basically from the concept of a novice photographer. I would like to leave you with a question, if you're still here. What do you use? I know there's probably some people out here that are watching this, maybe looking to upgrade or maybe buy a companion camera. What do you use? What kind of camera do you use when you're doing either vlogging or photography? Whether you're an expert or novice. And also on top of that, let me know what you think about what I've said about this too. I know I've said that before, but still, let me know, down here in the comment section. Last but not least, I wanted to add a little bit towards the end, again, if you're still here. I'd like to add that I am now, as I point here, recording on a new camera that I just purchased. It is the Canon EOS or EOS M50. Read a lot of reviews on it and said this is a great camera to go up to the vlogging aspect of it. So please hit that notification bell, as I said for the 4th time, because I'm going to review this camera and let you know what my initial thoughts are. I'm going to leave you with a thank you and a peace. Campy out.
Go.